computer. Okay, so great. So just in terms of reviewing the material for this final exam, I'd just like to state it's on Monday, the 14th of June, between the hours of 6 to 12 p.m. So please, one of these things I would like to stress, it will behoove you, or it will be in your interest, to most definitely get access to a PC, a laptop, a PC, and not to rely on your phone, because one part of the exam itself is indeed drag and drop. And with the drag and drop, as we have learned from one of our field exercises relating to the lab, sometimes it does not work well on the phone. So please, from now, I'm trying, it will be in your interest, please, to get access to a laptop or a PC on the 14th of June. All right, so from now, I try to make that happen where that is concerned. The exam itself has 4 parts to it. Number 1, 40 multiple choice questions. Do remember the exam itself is a comprehensive exam, so it's based on everything which we have done thus far. 40 multiple choice questions, 20 true and false question. The 40 multiple choice, you have 50 minutes. The 20 true and false statements, you have 25 minutes to answer it. Structured essay, 50 minutes. And it's just one structured essay. It's based on a case study. And the last part, it's a labeling exercise. You'll have 4 diagrams to label, and you'll have 20 minutes to do it. Let's talk a bit about that labeling exercise. When reviewing the exam itself is a comprehensive exam. So it's based on all of the topics which we have looked at, namely blood and circulatory system, which involves the heart, blood vessels, the circulation, the naming of certain key blood vessels in the body itself, the immune and lymphatic systems, the respiratory system, the digestive system, metabolism and endocrine systems, the urinary system, the reproductive system, and lastly, of course, what we did mention was the whole notion of inheritance and genes. All right, so that was on the reproductive system part 2. So all of these will be the material on which the assessment is based. Now, with the diagrams, let's just review going through the topics themselves. So with the blood we mentioned, should have a look to tell the difference between the different types of white blood cells diagrammatically. You should be able to tell the difference among them, and with the structure of a red blood cell. Any questions? No, good. With blood vessels and circulation, you should, when we are looking at the labeling, the major arteries and veins in the body itself. All right, so there's a diagram with the different arteries and veins, the major ones. And you don't have to get into the minor ones, but the major ones that leave the heart, that carries blood to the brain, that carries the blood to the major organ systems. You should be able to label those arteries and veins. All right, so that is the blood and circulation. With the immune and lymphatic systems, you should appreciate with the lymphatic system, and there's one main diagram which shows the circulation as it relates to the lymphatic throughout the body. That's one. Secondly, you should appreciate the different components of the lymphatic system, what makes up the lymphatic system, the Peyer's patches and tonsils, all these different parts or components of the lymphatic system. You should be able to identify those as well. All right, so that's it in terms of where the immune overlapping with the with the cardiovascular system, the immune system. You should be able to identify the white blood cells, the different types as we mentioned. Okay. All right, then we went on to the respiratory system. With the respiratory system, you should be able to identify the lungs and the components of the lung, the bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. Those are the major components. When you're looking at the respiratory tract, both from the nose, from the level of the nose or nasal passages, all the way down to the alveoli, you should be able to identify all of the parts that go in between them. All right. So there's one diagram in particular. So just pay attention to that as it relates to the respiratory system. Um, with the digestive system, we're going from mouth to anus. All right, and everything in between, you should be able to identify the structures that go from mouth to anus. Also, the accessory organs that actually feed into the digestive tract as well. So do take note of that in terms of being able to label any structures such as those. With the endocrine system, in terms of the hormones, well, you know there's the major one, the master gland, in terms of from the level of the brain itself, and then the different hormones which are secreted throughout the body and how they are secreted in terms of the structures that they go through, which facilitate their secretion. So, for instance, the pancreas, the endocrine hormone that it secretes is insulin, and you should be able to recognize that in terms of where, let's say, on the body itself, you should be able to identify, let's say, the pancreas, and then be able to say, okay, that's the pancreas. What it secretes is insulin. All right. So with the hormones related to the endocrine system, you should be able to identify it from the master gland all the way down to the level of the hormones which are secreted. The urinary system, major structures, the kidney, should be able to label a kidney. And also, not only we're looking at the kidney itself, but we're also looking at from the level of the kidney all the way down to the urethra. Urethra in terms of expulsion of urine outside of the body itself. So labeling of the kidneys and the structure, its associated structures, kidneys, ureters to the level of the bladder, to the urethra, you should be able to label that. And in addition, specifically look at the nephron, right? You should be able to label the parts of a nephron. All right, so that's it for the urinary system. Then when we get to the reproductive system, as mentioned previously, the major structures associated with the male and female reproductive system, you should be able to label that. Okay, and that would cover, once you do that material there, that would cover um, things which could be asked as it relates to the part 4 labeling. Now let's go to the other one, the structured essay, as I mentioned that one. All right. So with the structured essay, that one you'll be given a case study, right? And then you'll be asked some questions on it. So what do we mean a case study? So they could give you something that, let's say somebody is playing pool, somebody playing cricket, and somebody bowl a ball and hit them in the jaw, and they drop down, and the part of the jaw that was fractured was the upper part, and they were carried to hospital and so on. And they might ask you, okay, so the upper part of the jaw, what is that? What in terms of the skeletals? Well, even though it did not cover skeletal, that was done in SNF1. I'm just doing it as a poor example. So they can ask you then, okay, let me see if I can relate that to the, um, let's say they could ask you like, what cranial nerve innervates the upper jaw or something to that effect, right? They can then ask you something related to, okay, let's say they gave him, when he presented his vitals showed 130 over 80, 130 over 90. Is this considered bradycardia or tachycardia? And of course, bradycardia relates to the slowing down of the heart, tachycardia, speeding up. So since both of these vitals are above the usual known level of 120 over 80, you would say then he was experiencing tachycardia or increased heart rate. All right. So these are some of the questions that they could have, and you will be given space to type your answer out. All right. So that's one example there. They could mention as well. Right. I have to go check that out. Oh, yeah. So could related again questions related to the kidneys itself. It could mention something like, let's say, in terms of urinary infection, which persons are more susceptible to urinary infections and why? That could be another question that could be asked. And Of course, as we did mention when we were looking at the urinary system, we mentioned that females are more susceptible to urinary infections because of the fact that the urethra is so short and because of its proximity to the anus as well. So therefore, females tend to have greater incidences of urinary tract infections. So that's another question that they could ask. They could also ask, let's say, um, as related to the bladder, what is the main, let's say, what is the main function of the bladder? Yeah, bladder only serves one thing, it just stores urine. It doesn't do anything else. All right, so that's an example of what the question, so we'll have multiple parts to it. Each part of the question, you can have up to, let's say 8 parts, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, L, um, and so on. And each part would be worth, depending on how many things they ask for, either 1, 2, or 3 marks. And collectively, then, it would add up to a total. And that would be the question as it relates to the um, the essay. So that's how the essay would be. You'd be given 1 or 2 paragraphs where they would explain a scenario, involving an individual, and then they would ask you questions based on it. Okay, everybody good so far?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Thanks, Susanna. Okay, so that's 2 sections and we covered. Let's go to another section then. So the true false questions, as the name implies, true or false. And this one is not like true or false with rationale. Sometimes you're all familiar with true or false with rationale, where they would actually ask you if you say true, why it is you say true, or why it is you say false. With this one, they would just give you um, a scenario, and then you would actually have to say, you just click on it, true or false. That's it. So let's say, let me give you an example. The amount of sperm, the amount of sperm found in a 5 milliliter teaspoon is 1 million. Is that true or false? In terms of semen, in 1 teaspoon of semen is 1 million. Let me rephrase that. In a normal individual, the number of semen found in in 5 milliliters of semen, the number of sperm found in 5 milliliters of semen is 1 million. What would you say? True or false?
False.
False, yeah. So because what is the average amount found in a 5 milliliter teaspoon? We're looking about 500 million, 500 million. So 1 million, why I rephrase it and say normal, some persons might have a really low sperm count. All right, but normally that number is really, really low. That is way too low. So that would be false. Thanks, Shady, for that response. All right, so that's true and false. One way in terms of revising for the true and false, for the lecture, you're usually given where you could choose for the multiple choice. If you look there's also an option when you go to the site and when you go through the multiple choice. If you click where it says questions, you'll see that one of the options is true and false. So that's a nice way of revising it as well, as you go through the different topics, to just look through that. So that will be how the true false part of the assessment, that's how it will be. It's pretty straightforward. Then of course you'll have the multiple choice questions. We've been doing multiple choice questions, I would say whole semester, every week in terms of the practice. And it wouldn't vary too much off of what, in terms of the format, it will look very similar to what you have seen there. Right? So, for instance, let's say if I were to ask you which blood cell can be described as a biconcave disc, what would you say? If it's a erythrocyte, platelet, eosinophil, or neutrophil, what would be the answer? Which one is a biconcave disc?
The erythrocytes.
Yeah, right, erythrocytes, yeah, biconcave disc. Very good, right? So that's an example of it, of, of what will be expected from you. And then, so one of the ways in terms, I would say, of the revision for the multiple choice, go back to the uh, go through the lectures where you'd have, the last part, what is required of you on a daily basis. The last part where it says that, yes, you have to go through the multiple choice questions for revision. Yeah, that will actually be a very good way of revising on the different topics. All right, so that will sharpen you up a little bit. And in essence, once you do those things, you'll be in good shape for it. Right now, going into the finals, I think, well, with few exceptions, everybody should know what they're looking like. I will be posting your grades by Friday, right, on banner, but everybody should know what you're getting already because you see your grades when you go through the e-classroom. I'll post them up formally, so you'll know what you're looking like before you get into the finals itself. There's some persons who might have missed certain assessments, and for those persons on Sunday, there will be an assessment for them. These are persons who had difficulty, let's say, with their equipment and were not able to finish or something like that and got exceptionally low scores. This is not for persons who did, let's say, get a C or a B and want to try to improve to an A. This is not for those persons. All right, so it's only those persons who genuinely had difficulty, right? This assessment is for that. So it'll be on Sunday. I'll post up the link. When I finish with you all, I'll post up the link shortly so you'd see where it is. So it would be on this week's link, 2nd of June to the 8th of June. You'll see a link to the bottom. It is not posted yet. It will be posted up. And that will be only for persons who have missed. Right. So once again, only persons who missed, and yeah, those persons wrote me and told me they did have difficulty that on the day itself, or electricity went, or the internet shut down, or what have you not. Those persons, if you did miss an assessment in that regard, you will be given the opportunity to improve, well, to redo those assessments. Question, when will it be open? Well, do stay tuned. I will post it in WhatsApp to give you the details. More likely than not, it'll be the usual format, a 12-hour from 1 p.m. on Sunday until 1 p.m. on Monday. This is only for persons who missed an assessment, who had difficulty with their internet while doing it, or for which current cut off or something like that during the process. Any questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Um, it said that you was going to upload the marks this Sunday,
No, Friday.
Friday.
But you should,
But
yeah.
um, with respect to the group project,
Hmm.
we and this due for the 14th, right?
It was just now. Let me have a look. You're asking me or you're telling me which one?
No, because I seen on like in the beginning of the class, it had two documents, and one document have the 7th, and then it have on the actual document for the group project have the 14th.
So, well, in that case, the one on the actual document will supersede. Some people ask for more time. So if it does say June the 14th, it will. I'll change it to avoid confusion. I'll change it on the one that is posted. And you're quite right in that regard. It does say June the 7th on the semester at a glance. But if the actual document says the 14th, that is what it is. So you were concerned then that how you would see a zero since it says the 14th. No.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, that grade wouldn't go up, right? So it will
Okay.
hold firm until
And next thing to for the project, right? The question saying to describe the mechanical and chemical digestion from mouth to the intestines, right? Um, for like A, B, and C, they say like these are the criteria. By chance, you want like seeing that's gonna be in a PowerPoint or something. Like if it is you want like one slide showing all the organs involved on one slide for the processes, or you just want the description of the entire process.
one of the
Just
important
like just like with all those things tying to the description.
one of the important things you should realize, especially at this stage, um, you know, you're considered to be knowledgeable, sufficiently knowledgeable to actually explain yourself. What do I mean by that? Whenever you do get a question in terms of the approach, what you do is, for instance, if you see a question that says, um, go and paint the wall in the bedroom, all right? Or another question, let's say part of an assignment, go and paint the wall in the bedroom, full stop. What do you do? Well, in terms of the write-up, what would you say? Well, we went into the bedroom and we saw 4 walls. 3 of the walls were recently or freshly painted. Therefore, we surmised that the fourth wall, which was not freshly painted, that was the wall that needed to be painted, and therefore we painted this wall. In terms of the colors that were used, all of the colors on the walls were green. Therefore, we continued with the color pattern and we painted this wall green. When you're approaching this topic, in terms of answering it, you do the same thing. Once you justify the approach that you did, you will be given marks for it. And that's the important thing. And that is something which which I hope to pass on to you, which you would use in your going forward in terms of your matriculation. Always justify. You don't just give an answer then. So for instance, let's say, given the scenario which I pointed out with the rooms, you wouldn't just say, we painted the wall green. We painted one wall green, full stop. Now you'd lose marks. But when you justify it, well, we saw 3 of the walls were freshly painted, one was not, therefore we decided to paint this one. You would get your marks for it. That answer your question?
Yes. That means
Yeah.
I was on the right track. Because I want
Always,
to make sure that because it
always.
was like,
That's why I say a lot of
yeah,
people trust your. As often I share this with you, trust your judgment, right? Is very. But by the same token, given your judgment, you have to justify it. But you have the material that you need to answer it, right? So just justify it, and how you interpret it, just justify your interpretation, and you move on that. You'll get your marks. Okay.
yes.
All right. Great. All right, so that's a good, I'm glad our question was raised. So always remember, when you answer any question, just justify it. Justify why you did what you did. And then we decided to paint the wall green because the other 3 walls were green. We decided to paint it yellow because the other 3 were green. And we wanted this to be a highlight wall because we were going to put the TV on this wall. Boom. 2 different answers, both justifiable and rational in terms of the marks. Yeah, you get the same marks, right? So always remember that. Okay. Any other questions, as you mentioned, that relating to the um, the assignment? Let me.
So with the presentation, right? Do you want a voice over on tape?
Somebody want to answer that for me, please? Let's have a look at the
No.
question. Nobody want to answer it. Let me see. Let me see if I could find it on the e-classroom. No, no. Yeah, just 1 second. Yeah. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, we still
Let
here.
me see. Let me see if I could find this with the project, where the specifics of the project will get laid down. Oh, actually, the project was sent to you earlier on. I said, in where does it have? No, it would have a Dropbox for the project.
Okay, I saw the recorded presentation part.
I'm not seeing the Dropbox. Anybody remember where the Dropbox for the activity is? What week? Huh, I'm not seeing. Y'all know where you're supposed to drop off your project?
The Dropbox,
Right, where the Dropbox is, which
So
week?
I wasn't seeing
let's
any
say
yet.
the deadline is
No,
12:05 a.m. Monday.
right, but talking about the Dropbox, where the Dropbox, did it say where the Dropbox was?
Maybe later on it might pop up.
Right, so because I'm not seeing any Dropbox here. So I think the thing with this is I sent you all those instructions early in life. Was it on WhatsApp? Those instructions were sent on WhatsApp for the project?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's fine. So what I'll do, let me just pull it up. I would put it on the,
You want me to repost that? I have it right now.
yeah, you could do that, thanks. I'm not able, okay, no problem.
It's on the group center.
Okay, I just see it pop up, great. Yeah, in terms of the instructions for it, I will post a Dropbox. Let me do that now, actually, so that some people, I'll put it on the week of the 2nd to the 8th. Let me put a Dropbox for you. Right, it's only for the Monday, the 14th of June. Let me just add that real quick. Mhm, 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 mhm.
I have a question.
Just 1 second. I'll come in right here. If you can't remember it, write it down, all right? But just do my one, I just finishing off something here. And so brain ain't good enough, so you start to move with the flow. All right? Jump box for
Yeah.
just 1 second for group project. All right, so availability. Today is the 2nd of June. Yeah. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? It's 12:56. And it's due on the 14th of June. 12:05 a.m. So you have until actually it doesn't have a 12:05 a.m. is 00 a.m. Yeah, 12:05 a.m. Right, so it's due on the 14th of June at 12:05 a.m. Setup, submission type, all types, file submission, word limit, close up limit, maximum number of uploaded files is one. Right, save and return to course submission. All right, so here we go. Yeah, no, I had to put some, I had to put, you have to make a recorded presentation not exceeding 15 minutes. Mhm, mhm, mhm. And yeah. Okay, so if y'all, I put up the link on the in the e-classroom. The week of the is due on the 14th, is on the week of the 2nd to the 8th of June. All right, I think on the week of the 2nd, which is this week. If you look to the bottom, you'll see a Dropbox for group project launch on the San Fernando waterfront. So let me just send a note to everybody. Hello, students. The Dropbox for the group assignment is now available at the bottom of week. In the week of 2nd of June to 8th of June. Okay. Missing this, miss out today class, something we miss out today class. Okay, yeah. So I sent it. I sent that for you. All right. So you can have a look in terms of the details. All right, for the Dropbox. Now let me see. I had a question. Let me see. Yes, Sarah. Sarah, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a
Okay, go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Um, I did bad in my last clock exam and my assessment too.
Okay, I tell you
Because
what, Sarah. I tell you what. Could you send me a message? Could you send me something on WhatsApp uh, concerning that? And let me respond. Yeah?
yeah,
That's okay?
because my dad was sick and stuff, and I was taking care of him, and I was
All right.
not really
If you wanted it
like.
public knowledge. Yeah, I hear you. But one thing, if ever you want to communicate something to me and you don't necessarily want it public, do feel free to send it to me on WhatsApp. Yeah. All right. So hit me up on that. Okay, Sarah? And I'll respond to it accordingly. Okay? Uh, just tell me exactly what you just said there, and I'll respond to it. Okay? But I see no reason why not. It's always good to take care of your parents because the good book says, um, what does the good book says about taking care of your parents in the land of the living? About your days that your days will be what in the
So
land of
that
the
your days
living?
will be long.
Ah, yeah, very good. Right? Your days will be long in the land of the living as it relates to taking care of your parents, your mother. Honor your mother and father so that your days will be long in the land of the living. So I have no problem with that, Sarah. Sarah, yeah. Okay? All right, Sarah. So yes, to answer your question, you don't know what's happening, but yes, you can do the retake. Okay? Anybody else, if you do have something specific, you could WhatsApp me, hit me up on WhatsApp, and I respond. If you don't get a response, you could just say hello, sir, just a gentle reminder, and just send it again. But Dropbox is there the week of the 2nd to the 8th of June at the bottom for you to put in your voiceover. Voiceover could be by one person on behalf of the group. Yes, that is allowable. But just be mindful that, let other people do stuff in the group. I know sometimes there's some people who have very strong personalities, they'll take over everything and want to do everything. Well, if the rest of the group comfortable with that, I am mad at you all, you know. But try as much as possible to get everybody involved. Okay? Any other questions? Any other questions concerning the finals?
How to study and remember everything without being stressed?
Ah, good question. We throw that out to the class. How do you remember all of this stuff? Anybody wants to answer that one?
Practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eleanor, I like that. So, Sarah, one of the things you could do, nothing like practice. You know, so like for the multiple choice questions, for instance, you could practice taking multiple choice because the links are available in the lecture on the e-classroom. You know, those for every week. If you click on the link, you'll see it comes up. And also when it does come up, you can manipulate it as well to go into the different chapters based on what we have done for the course itself. So not only will you see multiple choice questions, you'll also see true and false questions as well. So you could practice. And the good thing is when you press enter, at the end, the answers come up and you can retake it as many times as you want. So I would say at this point, that's an excellent way, and I'm glad your colleague brought it up. It's an excellent way of revising for both the multiple choice and the true false. That is most definitely, I would highly suggest that you do that in terms of those two aspects, right? Multiple choice, true false, go through the link and actually do the work there into and just go it over for the different topics. The other thing is for the labeling, remember, I told you it's generalized ones. So go through the topics, respiration and so on. Look at the organs associated with the topic and just look at, choose one of the, an image in terms of for the labeling aspect, right? So not a too complicated a labeling image. The only one that should get a little bit of complexity is the one with the heart. That's probably the most complicated one. But the others, just look at the generalized structure. So like for the urinary system, you'll be looking at the kidneys. With the digestive system on that one, you'll be looking at the digestive tract. You should be able to label the digestive tract. So for those topics, so number one, you'll go through the multiple choice and the true and false to get a rhythm. Number two, you'll be looking at the first of all, the organs associated with the organ systems related to the topic which we did, right? So you look at it, you're looking at those diagrams and familiarize yourself with it. And then with the case, I would say with the case study, when you revise the multiple choice, the true false, and looking at the diagrams, that will have you in good form for the case study. Yeah? So that's how I think I would strongly suggest for you revise at this point. Go through the multiple choice, go through the true and false questions, and go through the diagrams. And when you do those things, you'd be in good stead for I would say the entire exam. That's okay, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Another thing as well, if you have a question, as you go along with your revision or anything like that, hey, hit me up. I'm available on WhatsApp. And I do some weird hours as well. I must apologize in advance. If you see sometime I respond at 3 a.m., right? It's sometimes I'll put that time and I read it. But if it is a causing any friction, do let me know. I don't want, let's say, to alert you. And let's say if it is, if wakens you or something like that. But in general, I usually will respond during waking hours between 8 and let's say, I usually think 8 to 8. I usually do a cutoff time of 7 p.m. But notwithstanding that, you could send a question to me at night. There's not a problem on my side because I would be able to see it. And I would hold on to it and respond, let's say, um, from 8 in the following day. All right. So any other questions you have, send them to me. That is not a problem. You'd get a response within 24 hours, most definitely. Anything else? Anybody in terms of the final that you have any questions about?
So basically,
Go ahead.
is is 3 hours long, right?
Okay, so the exam itself is between, you have between 6 and 12. And you could look at it as 4 separate exams between 6 and 12. And the first exam is 50 minutes long. The second one is 25. The third one is 50 minutes. And the fourth one is 20 minutes. Right? You could stop between. So when you do the multiple choice, when you finish, you could take a break. When you finish the true false, you could take a break. When you finish the structured, you can take a break. When you finish the labeling, you can take a break. But you have 6 hours in which to complete it. I don't know if that making sense. I'm not sure if I expressed myself right. But you have a time limit on each part. But let me put it like this. If you from 6 a.m. after 12 noon, you will not be able to see the exam at all. I don't know if that makes sense. So from 6 a.m. to 12 noon, you'll be able to see the exam. After 12, it will lock off. During the exam, you have 4 parts to do. Multiple choice, true, false, structured, and a labeling. The multiple choice is 50 minutes. The true, false is 25. The structured is 50. The labeling is 20. So in fact, you could start any labeling if you want. Start on the labeling 20 minutes. When the 20 minutes done, right, it will close off for you. That's for you as an individual, right? You could stop there and wait, take a break, and then go on the structured essay. Once you finish all the parts by 12 noon, yeah? So it's 4 parts, but you must finish all the parts by 12 noon. So you could do the maths on it, but each part has a different time associated with it. I know, that making any sense?
Yes, sir. Or you could do it every hour. You do a part.
Yeah, there you go. So in other words, you have 6 hours to do the entire exam. So I suggested there, let's say the labeling take 20 minutes, you could take an hour off. And then decide, okay, now let me go on to the structured essay. Boom. Yeah, just sit down and do the maths. But you have from 6 a.m. to 12 noon. So the bottom line is, just make sure you finish all the parts by 12 o'clock. That's just the bottom line. Once you finish it by 12, when the clock say 12:01, you will not be able to see any parts of the exam anymore. So if it is, let's say you wake up at 5 minutes to 12, well, I'm really sorry for you in that regard. Because come 12 o'clock, in terms of noon, 12 noon, the exam will be closed off. But it starts from 6 a.m. So anytime between 6 and 12, you could start off, but do remember by 12 noon, it cuts off. Yeah, I don't know if I answer your question because it's a tricky way of
Yes,
really.
it did.
I did. Okay, but if it is having, I'll try to post the instructions. It will clarify. But if you're having trouble understanding, I'm not mad at you because it's a little tricky sometimes to actually to conceive it in your head. It's better to see it on paper. So let me do that. Yeah, it's hard to see it sometimes. So yeah, so do take note of that. Anything else? Any other questions? Any questions at all? I wouldn't be mad at you. Go right ahead and ask. Nope. All right. Well, let me just update the rule, and then I'll have you on your way. All right. Let me see. Akia, Miss Alexander, you here? Alison Taylor, Aviel Lumash, Selena Bash.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Who's that? Who is yes, sir?
Sir, I'm right here.
Who's that? Aviel?
Taylor, sir.
Yellow man.
Okay, good.
Sir Alexander here.
Akia?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
I'm right
Alison
here.
Taylor. Alison Taylor was no, she's not here. Okay. Shanice Paul.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dahia Rosales. Davika Ramdial, Diana Archibald, Janine Thomas, Lucille Moses, Michael Villafana, alias Natasha Roberts. Oh, no,
Yes, sir.
sorry, yes, I got you on the first one. I wasn't paying attention, my bad. Ria Mulchan, Sasha Siuchan, Shady Davis,
Present.
Shakila Wilson, Charlene Mathura. No, okay, good. 16 and 6 is 22. The math's adding up. Yeah.
Amrita Lachman Singh here, right?
Amrita, yeah, I got you on the first pass. So those were just the ones who I didn't get on the first pass. I was just double checking to make sure everybody there.